Good morning. I am going to demonstrate for you how to make two different types of rich breads. We're using one dough to create two different loaves. And this is your second take-home assignment. And so I want you to peek in here and look at this little KD 7000, which is the type of digital scale that I have at home. This is the exact kind of scale that we have at school, and I'm going to show you how it works. You're going to press the red button to turn it on, and as you can see, you see a series of numbers flash by. I have this scale default set at grams, so you can see it says 0 grams. And that's what we're going to be using today. We're using metrics, and you'll recall probably from our first lecture, we talked about US measurements or metrics. This is metrics. If I wanted to change from metrics to something else or a different mode, right now I'm weighing in grams, I would hit the mode button. So that's on the top right. And if I hit it once, it goes to kilograms, which 1,000 grams equals 1 kilogram. So if I needed 1 kilogram and 250 grams, this scale would read 1.250. And so that would be 1¼ kilograms. If I hit the mode button again, it goes to ounces. So the number on the far left, to the left of the decimal would be the whole ounce, and to the right would be the fraction of an ounce. Whoops. If I hit it again, it goes to pounds and ounces. So the number to the far left would be the pounds. This would be the ounce. The second number would be the ounce, and this would be the fraction. And then if I hit it one more time, I go to all pounds. And once more, it takes us back to grams, and that's where we are going to weigh our ingredients. So I'm going to show you how this works. I'm going to put this bowl on top of the scale, and what happens is this bowl has weight. We need to get rid of the weight. We want to be able to weigh what we need in this bowl and have that weight deducted. So to do that, I press the bottom right-hand button, which is called the tare button, and not T-E-A-R, but T-A-R-E. What that does is clears the weight of the bowl. This scale will hold the weight of that bowl in its memory for a very short amount of time. So if I lift the bowl off, it's going to say negative 359 grams, meaning that the bowl weighs 359 grams, and it is keeping the weight of the bowl in its little memory. If I put the bowl back on, it goes back to 0. So anytime I want to weigh, I have to always make sure that I hit the tare button, and we always start at 0. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is we never, ever, ever weigh one ingredient on top of the next. For example, I would never weigh water in here and then tear out the scale and put flour on top of that and something else on top of that, because if we make a mistake, we will have ruined the entire batch and we'll have to throw the whole thing out. We always use separate containers for scaling our ingredients. So the recipe that we're using is soft roll dough, which is on page 131. This dough can be used to make rolls, or it can also be used to make cinnamon bread or raisin bread or just plain white bread. And we're going to make one cinnamon bread and we're going to make one white bread. So let's get started. I'm moving the book, and the very first thing we're going to do is temp our water. So I have water in this cup to measure, and we need 375 grams of water at between 85 and 95 degrees. And I've put my thermometer, and I see it climbing, and we should get right to, yep, we're hovering right where we need to be, just a tad over 91 degrees, which is perfect. So now I'm going to turn the scale on, as we discussed. I'm putting the bowl on. Next step, hit the tare button, and then pour enough water in to read 375 grams. We are making this dough by hand. We made our dough last week by hand, and we're making our dough this week by hand. So as we get closer, we want to just drizz the water in a little bit at a time. 365, 373. All right, 375. I'm going to take that off. And the next thing we're going to do is weigh the flour. So I'm going to put a different bowl on the scale. This bowl weighs something different. So again, I have to hit the tare button and hit it one more time to make sure that we've gone back to 0. We need 625 grams of bread flour, which I have right here. This happens to be organic bread flour. And we are going to weigh out 625 grams. I'm making a mess. It's all right. Getting closer. When we get close to the end, we just kind of knock it in. Little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit. Make sure you wash your hands first. I did. All right, so now I have the flour. I can always mix my dry ingredients together in a straight dough, and that's basically what this is. So again, I have a different bowl on here. I'm gonna hit the tare button. I've gone back to 0. What I need next is 60 grams of sugar. So I have sugar. Grams are itty bitty. There we go. 60 grams of sugar. I am going to mix the sugar with the flour. I'm putting that same bowl back on, and I am going to scale out 12 grams of instant dry yeast. This is the same brand of yeast we use at school. Comes in this red pack. It's an instant type of yeast, and we need 12 grams. You can see it's very light in weight because there's a lot of it, and we still haven't gotten close. 11, 12. There we go. 12 grams going in with the dry ingredients. Next, we need non-fat milk solids. What is that? That is powdered milk. And that is also very light. We need 30 grams. Looks like this. If you mix this with water, you would have milk, non-fat milk. And they use it a lot in bread baking because it's shelf stable, easy to store. That also goes in with the dry ingredients. We need our salt, which we need 12 grams of salt right here. I'm gonna weigh it out. There we go. Put the lid back on. That's going in here. And finally, we need softened butter. This butter is just kind of soft, but I think I'm going to pop it in the microwave just for a quick second. Meanwhile, while that's softening or blowing up in the microwave, I'm just going to take my hand and kind of blend these ingredients together. So we have sugar, salt, powdered milk, yeast, and I just want to blend it up a little bit because we're going to add all of this to the water. Perfect. So now I've actually kind of half melted this butter, which is really actually excellent. So I'm just going to drop it in with the water, kind of scrape it out with my hand. Now, if you had a mixer at home, a stand mixer, you certainly could use it. But if you don't, I'm going to show you how to do it this way. There we go, out of our way. And then I'm just going to take my hand and kind of start swirling in the middle. This is kind of one of my favorite parts of bread production, is just touching the dough and kneading the dough. So I'm going slow because I didn't get a huge bowl. Probably could have gotten a bigger one, but it's okay. I'm just going to go around and around. If you have a spatula, you can use a spatula. And we're going to get the dry. Once we get most of the dry ingredients blended, this is very much like what we did last week with the Italian loaf. Notice how we come around the bowl. And this is sort of what we would call the pickup stage, where the dough itself is starting to come together. There we go. And I think we have all the dry bits picked up. So I'm going to scrape this off my hand as best I can. I'm going to take a little bit of what we call bench flour, which is just a little bit of flour for the table or the bench, which I'll make sure that I give you some bench flour as well. I am getting all of it out of the bowl, and then I am going to start kneading. So flipping forward towards me and then pushing with the heels of my hand, flipping and pushing, flipping and pushing, turning, repeat, pull, push, flip, push. And you continue to do that until you develop enough gluten where the dough is nice and smooth and we can give it a little stretch. How long will it take? Just like last week, it's a little hard to say. Depends on how much energy you put into kneading this dough. So I will continue to knead, and I'll kind of look at the clock and tell you how long it took me, and I'll come back and show you the finished dough. Okay, back with you. This dough is thoroughly kneaded for what we want. We are now going to pick it up and place it back in the bowl that we mixed it. I'm going to cover it with a piece of plastic, and I'm going to put a towel over the top of that, and it is going to go into its step, which we call bulk fermentation. This is where the yeast acts on the sugars and the starches that are in the dough, and it's what gives the dough its risenness, and should take about 45 minutes to an hour. So we'll be back to take a peek. So our dough has been fermenting for 1 hour. As you can see, if you press your finger in it, the indentation stays. That, plus the fact that it has doubled in bulk, indicates that the dough has completed its fermentation period. So now I'm going to divide this dough into 2 pieces and round it and bench it. Without a scale, the easiest way to do it is to turn it out of the bowl and to divide it directly in half using your bench scraper. The dough is now divided, pre-shaped, and now it is benching on the counter covered with a piece of plastic, and we will come back in 20 minutes and I'll show you how to shape it.